Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Hello and welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. We started a little bit early today. EK's having a bad day, and so he wasn't even paying attention to what time it is. I'm sitting here, scrolling through Tinder, and he's like, "What are you doing? Doing a test run?" And he's like, "No, we're going live." And I'm like, "Dude, it's 1:30." Anyway, so we're starting early today. All right, we're starting early today. That's all there is to it. So you got to suck it up. So I'm sorry if you're on the road right now. Just it'll stay up there on YouTube, so go ahead and just put it off till later. I don't want you distracted driving. Anyway, so yeah, I want to remind you that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. There you can become a patron. I'd appreciate it. You can also send me money through the Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. When I first made the Patreon, it was $3 a month. It's still $3 a month. It was $3 a month, and that was like almost two gallons of gas back then. Now, being a patron is like half a gallon of gas. So in many ways, the prices now for my Patreon are cheaper than they've ever been. So now's the time to act. It's not like I'm asking for Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? And the government has its way, and the Bitcoin's going to be gone as well. I got all my stuff out of place here. All right, I'm ready. All right, so yeah, get in on the patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. I would appreciate it. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on, because I'm sure you've all noticed the prices. I'm sure you've all noticed the prices climbing up and up and up. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand a whole lot about this kind of stuff. And I feel like a need to tell people, because it seems like so many people are idiots about this. And, I'm not even an expert. It's not like I worked for Burisma. It's not like I sat on the board of Burisma. It's not like I worked for Enron. Energy trading companies, by the way. Energy trading. And energy trading is trading mostly oil, mostly gasoline. And as you know, the prices at the pump have gone way up over the last year. Don't let them tell you it's just because of the Ukraine thing. No. The problem is that, there's like, let's say there's a dozen taps, spigots, like you have a tap in your bathroom in the sink. Think of that as like an oil pipeline. You got a dozen taps like that in the world, probably more, but the biggest ones are like, it's like the governments of the world have shut off every single one except the one coming out of Russia. All right. And that's the problem. Additionally, we had this whole thing with Greta Thunberg and stuff like that, and the Green New Deal coming through in Western countries, and they're saying, "Oh, we got to move away from fossil fuels. We got to switch to solar and wind and all this other like green energies." And I'm all for that. I'm all for green energy. But the simple fact of the matter is that the technology is simply not there yet for us all to convert to green energy. All right. That's why you got Pete Buttigieg out there telling everybody to go buy a brand new Tesla. And it's like, "Oh, you get a tax credit." And it's like, "Yeah, but I don't have $40K. I don't have $50,000.
Can't afford a $700.
Exactly. I have a $3,000 car, and I'm forced to, it's not like I can charge it anywhere. I gotta get fossil fuels. And that's all there is to it. We have to slowly convert to green energy. And green energy, like people want to say like windmills and stuff like that are good for energy. No, they're not. Sometimes the wind doesn't blow. Sometimes the sun doesn't shine. If you've been outside today in the Fredericksburg area, your solar panels aren't collecting anything today. All right. So we need better alternatives. And yes, that means electrical. And yes, that means nuclear. Europe, United States. Nuclear energy is the cleanest energy that we have, and you want to sit there and you want to whine about things like 3 Mile Island, like Chernobyl or the Fukushima. You're talking about three instances in the thousands of nuclear power plants that there are in the world. All right. It is the safest, cleanest energy, but because it says it's nuclear in it, everyone thinks it's like, oh, there's going to be a big explosion. We're all going to die. No. And the idea that you're going to, some Swedish girl's yelling at you and you got to swear off fossil fuels for good right now is insane. That's insane. If we opened up our pipelines here in the United States, if we continued fracking again, you'll be looking at $1.50 a gallon again, like we had under Trump. That's why these prices are going sky high. It's all simple economics. I didn't even go to college. All right. I took 2 semesters and dropped out in the second one of a community college, a Germanic community college. And I understand this. War doesn't necessarily make the price go up at the pump for everybody like the way that the supply and demand is. The demand has remained the same, but the Biden administration has cut off oil pipelines and stopped fracking and all this other stuff that has been going on. I guess it wasn't Biden who stopped the fracking. I think that was during Trump. They started doing that. And so, yeah, I mean, there's other issues with fracking, okay? But the point is that we have pipelines that we could use, and that way we could start exporting oil instead of importing oil. All right? I know we want the world to be green, and I want that too. But the simple fact of the matter is that there's far too many of us using fossil fuels, and we got to use fossil fuels until we get to a point where a Tesla is cheap enough for everyone to own, everyone in the world to own. And that's a good thing, because eventually it's going to get to that point. Eventually it's going to get to that point. But trying to force Americans into swearing off fossil fuels right now is insane, and it only makes those politicians richer. All right? Because all those people in Washington, they have their money in energy trading companies like Enron and Burisma. All right? Do you remember that whole thing with Hunter Biden being on the board of a Ukraine company, I mean? And now everyone's like, oh, we want to have a war with Russia. And anytime the Democrats want to have a war, I get really concerned. I get really freaked out. All right? And all you people out there posting like Ukrainian flags, when was the last time you posted an American flag? To hell with you. You're more patriotic to some other country than you are to our country. And it upsets me to no end that people don't understand this. I have a basic understanding of this. And even when it comes to news and current events and stuff like that, I always thought I had a very basic understanding. But people today are so friggin' stupid about this stuff now. I feel like an expert on everything. And I'm not. I'm just a madman shouting into the internet ether. So I don't know why you can't figure this out. The green tech isn't there yet. You want to think that AOC's Green New Deal is something feasible? You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. And why should I be surprised? Most of these scientists these days can't even agree on what is male and what is female. All right? Okay. I'm trying to brighten up your day. We talked about nuclear war, nuclear explosion, and a nuclear power plant. So I want to talk a little bit about like nuclear war, thermonuclear war. Because, regardless of how we get there, it could happen. The missiles could be in the air as we speak. And the best advice I can give you is duck and cover, because nothing you do will matter. So let's talk about like the ground zero. Let's talk about the different effects that may happen. So in ground zero area, and say like, since we're in Fredericksburg, let's say that's like DC, the DC metro area, like Alexandria and maybe up to Baltimore and stuff like that. That's ground zero, and boom. Those are the lucky ones. All those Democrats get to be the lucky ones. Those people who voted in all this liberal nonsense, they're the lucky ones who get vaporized instantly or melted, melted against the wall. All right, and they're the lucky ones. Okay, you move further out. You get like closer to like I guess what, Doswell. Okay, Doswell. Then you get into the high radiation area. All right, and that's when you get a severe dose of radiation from the radioactive fallout, and you die within a couple of days with your skin and hair falling off, and piss and blood. It's awful, but it only lasts a couple of days at that point. And then you move further out, and you get maybe to like the Fredericksburg area, and then you get to mildly radioactive. All right, and that's where you suffer maybe 6 months to a year with your hair falling out. It's not as severe, but it's still quite painful way to die with radioactive fallout. And beyond that, if you're far enough out away from like major cities or major strategic strike points, you could probably survive. All right, and you got it the worst, especially if you're like underground in a cave. Like rock prevents blocks radiation like you wouldn't believe. It's amazing. It's amazing in that regard. But if you hide out in a cave out there in like the Luray Caverns or something like that, you could survive. You know, the missiles start flying. You used to go run into the Luray Caverns. You might be okay. You know, granted, you're going to live in a world where, you know, you're fighting your neighbors for supplies and food and stuff like that. It becomes like The Walking Dead, you know, or the Book of Eli. You know, it just becomes a real nightmare for you. And then you're like, it's like, man, I wish I wasn't a country boy. I wish I was a city boy, because I just would have been vaporized first couple instances. And wouldn't have to worry about all this. Anyway, so the real question is like, how do you want to go out? You know, make sure you take your N95 mask. That'll help. That'll help with the radioactive fallout. All right. So I saw The Batman this past week. And I'm going to spoil the hell out of this film. So stand warned. And I am currently, right now, giving you a couple seconds to go ahead and skip ahead. I had high hopes that a new cast and a new story might breathe life once again into the Batman films. Now, I'm of the opinion that the only good Batman films are Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. The rest are all crap, and that opinion has not changed. I knew the cast had been set for a while, and so it's kind of late for me to complain about the blackwashing of the cast. You know, I don't care if you change the race of a canon character as long as it makes sense to cast that role. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury is okay with me because Samuel L. Jackson has the bravado that Nick Fury's character needs, right? But then again, how many black guys do you know named Nick? You know, I don't care about Catwoman because it's been done before, the, you know, race flipping with Catwoman. You know, plus I don't really care about Catwoman at all because she's a criminal and Batman should have trusted her up with a ball of yarn and delivered her straight to Blackgate. No, but no. Instead, we get uncomfortable and forced flirt sessions with the BatCat. That's my celeb couple name for them. We get those forced flirt sessions with them. And then we got Jim Gordon. All right, now we got Jim Gordon. All right, and when he first popped up on the screen, I was like, what's Neil deGrasse Tyson doing in this movie? Then I figured that was probably a racist thing to think. But Gordon's character was boring and passive and apparently only existed to let Batman onto active crime scenes and to use the Lord's name in vain. Gordon was a beta. And I care more about that change to his character than just casting a black guy with an awesome mustache. I mean, especially if you're obviously trying to make this film into a detective movie, which you tried. God knows someone in the writer's room tried to make this a detective movie. All right, but for a detective movie, you need Gordon and Batman should be playing off each other looking for clues. Like that one scene where it's like, you're gonna take ballistics from a shattered bullet? No, fingerprints. You know, that's brilliant, tight writing. But no. Instead, Gordon was more like the Jim Gordon from the 1960s TV show, where he's simply Gotham Police Department's Batman liaison. The movie put Jim Gordon in the corner, and nobody puts Gordon in the corner. The movie had me thinking it might actually be good for about 45 minutes. But then Batman came upon a guy with a suicide vest thing and got close to him. And then he got closer as the guy starts panicking. Then boom, and not a scratch on Batman and just dead victim all over him. And that's where I was like, okay, this is over. This film is over. And the film went on for 2 more hours. Batman wouldn't do that. He wouldn't get that close to an explosive. He's a detective, remember? Let's talk about the Riddler. All right, can we talk about the Riddler? I want to talk about the Riddler. Barney, get him a cigarette. I want to talk about the Riddler. All right? You want to turn the Riddler into a psycho Zodiac killer guy? I get that. I really do. And that's a good way to play his character. But he looks like a hazmat cleaner. And fans who like Red Room Darknet stuff are into it only for the morbid curiosity, not because they are anxious to commit copycat crimes. It's silly to think that fans would come out armed to join in on the murder. Then you finally unmask the Riddler, and I think the judge might sentence him to a spanking and going to bed without dinner. I almost said the following out loud during the movie when he was unmasked. Someone should have drank your milkshake a long time ago. But I didn't think the joke would land. Plus, there's this hour-long misdirect with Carmine Falcone and John Turturro, who are both in this movie. Martha Wayne is crazy. Thomas Wayne might have been dirty. He's your dad. All of it was a pointless misdirect in the second hour of the film. Someone told me this is all canon Earth 1 Batman books, and all I have to say is that shitty Batman books make for shitty Batman movies. So Zoe Kravitz plays Catwoman, and she's hot, all right? But she's petite, all right? She's really tiny. So tiny, she makes Robert Pattinson look huge, but only when he has this giant, heavy costume on. Robert has 11 inches in height in comparison to Zoe, but without his bulky costume, he looks like the Penguin from the Gotham series. Every time I saw quote-unquote Bruce Wayne on screen, I saw a sullen, moody vampire, not a fit, healthy fighter of crime. Catwoman even pulls Batman up once, and I got visibly angry in the theater because there's no way she could lift Robert Pattinson in a Batman costume with one arm. Not to mention that all the lead that Batman catches in this movie. Now, I don't know if you know anything about ballistic armor, but it tends not to last over multiple rounds. Batman should have dodged more. Plus, everything that comes out of a pistol or a rifle doesn't knock Batman down, but shotguns always have to blow somebody 8 feet away. As you can see, this movie really went off the rails in the third hour. Also, Batman is an adrenaline junkie and can drive for a long time on a motorcycle while looking in the rearview mirror. And that last couple of minutes of motorcycle flirting really pissed me off. Maybe I just really had to pee after 3 hours. The Batman, 5 of 13 stars. Taylor Lautner would have made a better Batman. Team Jacob for life.
Should have made it Robin.
Robert Pattinson, they should have made Robert Pattinson Robin? Or Taylor Lautner?
Robin.
No. He would have made a better Batman.
And then you bring in Kristen Stewart.
They bring Kristen
Vicky Vale.
Kristen Stewart and Vicky Vale. He's bringing the whole Twilight cast into. That's why EK doesn't do a show. Anyway, there's one more thing I want to talk about because I've been depressed lately. Angry, depressed, angry, and depressed. It's all it's kind of vacillating between. That's depression for you. And so there's a question that somebody asked me a while ago. A question somebody asked me a while ago that I want to pose to you. Is depression selfish and narcissistic? And that's an interesting question, I think. That's an interesting question. So let me tell you, let me sum up what depresses me. All right, I'm depressed because my videos will never go viral. Because of the way YouTube algorithms and stuff, it's all stacked against the these smaller creators. All those people who got in on the ground floor of YouTube. Yeah, they can still get the views. They can still get their videos suggested. The Tim Pools, the Joe Rogans and stuff like that. But nowadays, smaller creator can't ever go viral. So it's not like I have to grow organically through people like word of mouth. YouTube isn't going to suggest my videos to anybody. What I need you to do is tell other people is like, this is really good. You should watch this show. That's how I have to grow. I don't get any advantage from using these platforms like they used to do, like they used to give people advantages. All right, that depresses me. That depresses me that I feel like the tech companies have stacked it against me and other smaller creators, and so I can't excel at this job. I can't excel at this because they aren't doing what they used to do. And when I first started making YouTube videos, it's like, hey, it was a possibility. I made a Nightwing's butt video, got 5K views. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with 5K views. I'm not saying I need 1 million views. I'm not saying I need 1 million subscribers. I would just like enough so a few, like a certain percentage of them would become patrons and help pay for all this. That's all. Just a few. But I'm not going to be able to get that. So that depresses me. And that makes me feel like I have to work extra hard at my rants and so forth. All right. That depresses the hell out of me. All right. Also, I'm 45 years old. I'm going to be 45 years old. All right. I'm single. Last time I had a relationship was in 2000. That's a year. The year 2000 was my last relationship. And I got dumped in that one because I was a selfish asshole in the year 2000 and a few years before that as well. All right. And that was the last relationship I had over 20 years ago, 22 years ago. All right. And I think that I'm going to spend the rest of my life alone. I think it's quite possible that my only real chance of experiencing love died in a car accident in 1995. All right. I think that, I'm never going to have sex again, much less find love in this day and age. Okay. That depresses me to no end. Now, that's just a quick summary. Sometimes I get depressed about, some asshole on the road doesn't use the signals, but that's minor stuff. All right. So my point is that all of this stuff that I'm talking about is all me, my life. I'm never going to get laid again. Me. I'm an incel, And so the answer to, is depression selfish and narcissistic? Is yes. Yes, it absolutely is. And I will say this honestly, because when I don't have my medication, this question never pops up into my head. And this question was posed to me during a cognitive behavioral therapy session. All right. Now, I'm not going to say that my medications don't do anything and I don't need them, because I think I do need them. All right. To help with my depression, because when I'm in a depression, even when I'm medicated, like this past week, I just vacillate in between anger and sadness. All right. But and then I'll get into this rut of what they call stinking thinking. And so I need the meds in some way to help my mind come back to the question, is depression narcissistic? And the answer to that is yes. Because it's a soul self-obsession. It's like, oh, woe is me. It's all about me. I get it. And I don't want to be a narcissist. I don't want to be selfish, but I am. We all are. We're kind of hardwired that way. All right. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we're hardwired that way. And so you need to understand is like when you're depressed and you bring that energy with you to other people, you're kind of missing out. You're kind of missing out into the rewarding relationships that you have in the world. It's kind of like being shy. Being shy in many ways is narcissistic. I used to say, oh, I'm shy. I thought it was cool. I thought everyone it's cool to be shy. It's like, no, it's selfish to be shy. You're depriving other people of the joy within your soul, of the light within your life. And it's that kind of thing, that kind of thinking, to counter the depression, the cognitive behavioral therapy that I experienced. It's that kind of thinking that moved me into a place where I need to do a YouTube show where I'm talking about things that piss me off and all that stuff. Because I think I could be good at it. I think I'm entertaining at it. Plus, if I don't do it, I think my head might explode if I didn't have one chance a week to hit that pressure valve. All right. And granted, every time I'm sad, every time I'm ranting about how I hate this movie or I hate that movie, it's all narcissism. It's all narcissism to me. But I just try to make my narcissism entertaining, because that's the only way I can deal with my own narcissism, is to make jokes that make me laugh. So is depression selfish and narcissistic? Yes. Yes. Let go of it. Let go of your shyness. Let your light shine. That's the whole thing means, with all the, let this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. That's the whole point of that, is that when you're shy, you're like, oh, I don't want people to know me because I can be weird and it's, be somewhat outgoing. Yeah, I was shy. Yeah, I wasn't popular in school or anything like that. But I kind of got over my fear of public speaking, my sophomore year of high school. And I was able to project, using my diaphragm to speak. And eventually moving to radio because I knew how to use my voice. Then I started smoking and it all went to hell. Okay, do we have that video for Coco's?
Because I was dealing with all the other
Okay, we don't. You could try to pull it up, is that it? All right, now I want to tell you something about cakes. All right, you got a celebration coming up, or you just got dumped, or you just want to make love to a cake because you're all sad and stuff. I understand that. I've been there. You can go anywhere and get a cake. You can go anywhere and get some cake, and people will be happy. It's your nephew's birthday. You can go get a cake and you'll be happy with a cake, but it's nothing that's going to jump out at you. But I want to tell you about Coco's Confections. And if you're in the Fredericksburg area, you can reach out to Courtney Fulmer at Coco's Connections. Look for her on Facebook. All right. You can find pictures and stuff like that of her cakes. They're amazing. You can get a unique cake. You know, if they're into SpongeBob or they're into Minions or something like that, she'll make a cake out of anything. Well, not out of anything. I mean, into anything. All right. And it'll look great. It'll be a unique cake, and everyone will be coming around taking pictures of it. And they might be saying, like, this is too beautiful. This cake is too beautiful for us to cut into and eat. But don't you dare fall for that. Don't you dare fall for that trap. You should definitely cut up with that cake and eat some of that cake because it's also delicious. All right? It's delicious. I mean, the reason I'm giving her this ad is because I've had so many cupcakes and pieces of cake that she's brought around the studio, and it's like, I cannot keep quiet about this. So search for Coco's Confections, and it's just a little free ad I'm tossing her way because she's, good friend, and I want to see her succeed just as much as I want to see myself succeed. Check out Coco's Confections. Search for them on Facebook in the Fredericksburg area. And get yourself a custom, awesome, delicious cake. All right, let's go ahead and get to the news. Worth knowing. Wet my whistle. All right, so this first story. Former Keystone pipeline worker says U.S. energy crisis is a result of Biden's policies. Quote, we tried to warn you. A former Keystone XL pipeline worker said the energy industry tried to warn President Biden against policies hindering U.S. oil and gas production. Policies, the worker said, have caused the country's growing energy crisis. Quote, we tried to warn this administration back when they canceled the Keystone pipeline that it was also canceling national security, foreign policy, and energy. Neil Crabtree told Fox News. They all kind of go hand in hand. The average price for a gallon of gasoline in the U.S. hit a record high this week as oil neared $130 a barrel. Biden announced Tuesday that he was banning Russian oil and gas imports, which he says targets the main artery of Russia's economy. Biden said the decision will further increase already high domestic gas prices and warned fuel companies that this is no time for profiteering or price gouging. He blamed... you first. He blamed Russian President Vladimir Putin for raising gas prices in the U.S. Okay. Quote, since Putin has began his military buildup on Ukrainian borders, just since then, the price of gas at pumps in America went up 75 cents, he said. And with this action, it's going to go up further. But Crabtree said rising gas prices go beyond Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Quote, even if we could fix the Ukrainian problem, the prices are still going up, he said. Biden's policies have everything to do with the rising fuel prices in this country today. It has nothing to do with the war in Ukraine, Crabtree continued. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that the administration isn't against increasing domestic production and instead blamed oil companies. Quote, federal policies are not limiting to the supplies of oil and gas, Psaki said Monday. There are 9,000 approved drilling permits that are not being used, so the suggestion that we're not allowing companies to drill is inaccurate, she continued. I would suggest you ask the oil companies why they're not using those if there's a desire to drill more. In response, Crabtree told Fox News there's no energy company that's going to spend the money to develop a new lease if they can't build a pipeline to move the project. Biden canceled the Keystone XL pipeline his first day in office. Biden's administration officials discussed energy security in Venezuela. Energy security in Venezuela, in case you missed it. And the president is considered a trip to Saudi Arabia. Psaki also didn't rule out importing Iranian oil, if a nuclear deal is renewed. Golly. Iran and Venezuela, because, they're nicer than Russia, I guess. For right now in the news, I guess. Quote, when I'd first seen the reports of the president going to places like Iran and Venezuela to ask for more oil output, I said, this is fake news. He hasn't gone this far off the rocker, Crabtree told Fox News. But I guess that's the path they want to take, he said. Why not invite North Korea, he continued. Maybe they got a few barrels of oil that they can spare. No, they don't. Crabtree said there will be no end to the rising gas prices as long as Biden is using this as any way but the American way when it comes to using fossil fuels. We've got to get the administration foot off the throats of the energy companies and let them do what they do best, he added. We're not saying don't build windmills or solar farms. Start building them. Have fun, Crabtree told Fox News. But right now, this country runs on oil and gas, and it makes no sense for the Americans to suffer higher prices for it. So, I mean, that's basically stuff I said earlier. It's and they're going to Venezuela and Iran. Oh, man. These people they have no idea what they're doing. Their foreign policy is a shambles. It's awful. Oh, my goodness. Let's go to the next story. Putin's miscalculation. Russia underestimated the Ukrainians' resolve and Western backlash, experts say. Russian President Vladimir Putin underestimated the strength of the Ukrainian resistance, as well as the harsh backlash from the United States and Western allies when he invaded Ukraine last month, experts tell Fox News. The U.S. continued piling sanctions on Russia on Tuesday, implementing a ban on oil imports from the country in what President Biden called another powerful blow to Putin's war machine. Quote, Putin miscalculated the Ukrainians' willingness to fight, the leadership style, and the willingness to die for the cause of Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, Rebecca Koffler, a Defense Intelligence Agency officer and author of Putin's playbook, Russia's Secret Plan to Defeat America. She told Fox News Digital. She also said that they miscalculated the backlash of Western audiences, Europeans and Americans, and even a segment of the Russian population who are anti-war. Zelensky, who has already survived 3 assassination attempts, vowed to stay in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv as Russian forces lay siege to the city, even going as far as to reveal the location in a revealing his location in a defiant message on Monday. On Bankova Street, Zelensky said Monday, referring to where the presidential offices are located. Not hiding, and I'm not afraid of anyone. But wouldn't they already assume you might be there? If there's a presidential offices? If we're sending Russian troops to go find and kill this guy, it's like, maybe first place we check is the presidential office. I don't know. I think it's kind of stupid, Zelensky, to do that. It's like that guy who put his social security number on the truck and drove it across America and tell everyone, yeah, the LifeLock. They will protect me. It's like you're just begging for it at that point. It's like if somebody comes out, it's like whenever Tim Pool says, it's like, well, we've upgraded our security system here. It's like, now we're getting hacked like crazy. It's like, well, you dared them to. Anyway, unarmed Ukrainian civilians have confronted Russian soldiers and thousands of foreigners have traveled to Eastern Europe to help the Ukrainian army defend the country. As the Russian military attempts to take Ukrainian cities, unprecedented sanctions on Russian banks, oligarchs, and industries could challenge Putin domestically. Quote, the sanctions could make it very difficult to govern Russia in the sense that people's savings have been wiped out, factories will start to close, and there are fewer high-tech imports that are needed for the Russian economy. And obviously, the financial elite has taken a real beating. Timothy Fry, the professor of post-Soviet foreign policy at Columbia University, told Fox Digital. Companies started pulling out of Russia almost as soon as Putin invaded, both due to the Western sanctions and their disapproval of the war. Food giants Starbucks, Coca-Cola, and Pepsi joined withdrawal on Tuesday. Quote, at some point, Putin, who has been adverse to any kind of domestic political instability, might fear the reaction from the elite and from the mass public and begin to look for a way out of this situation. But we're not there yet, Fry said. It could take a while before we get there. Putin, a former KGB officer known for his ruthless information warfare tactics, also failed to take into account how the war would play out in 2022. How a war would play out in 2022. Putin didn't anticipate how technology has brought this conflict into the homes of ordinary people all over the world, by virtue of it unfolding on our TVs and on our computer screens, Koffler said. He was counting on the fact that he could keep it hidden, not only from the Russian people, but from the rest of the world as well. That's no longer the case. Russian authorities have cracked down on dissent over the last 2 weeks, blocking independent and foreign news outlets while shutting off access to social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook. While Putin still has control over the flow of information at home, it is difficult to get a pulse on the public opinion in Russia. Fry said the tide could turn. Yes. Quote, the message will slowly get through, particularly if the military gets bogged down significantly, Fry said. This is an extraordinary, volatile time, I think, in Russian public opinion towards the war. Yeah, so, yeah, that's still going on. The war in Ukraine, still going on. And God bless the Ukrainians for putting up a fight. I think that these companies are asking for trouble. I think there's something that I think we're missing. It's like Twitter Twitter banned the sitting president of the United States from their platform. And then when everyone else, and it's just like all these, like cancel culture. All right. Now, I'm not saying that Pepsi and Coke should be sending Pepsi and Coke to Russia. It's like, why deny them Pepsi and Coke? I think you're just asking for trouble. I think it makes Putin want to, look, we have no Coke. We have RC Cola. That's it. You know, I think it might make Putin want to nuke Atlanta, where the headquarters of these companies are. You know what I'm saying? I think you're putting yourself on the map. It's like when Elon Musk sent a whole bunch of those internet things over to Ukraine. It's like, I think you're asking for trouble. I think you're begging for Russia to declare war on you. And that's this whole problem with NATO, like shifting planes and stuff like that into, because that's what they're doing. We're shifting the planes. We're not giving the planes to the Ukraine. You know, when you're doing that, when you're treating Ukraine like a NATO nation, you're going to be considered an enemy combatant at some point. And that's kind of the problem with all of this. You know, if you're gonna go to war, go to war. All right, you can't fiddle around. It's like, we're not really in this war, but go get them, Ukraine. You know, here's some stuff. Go get them, Ukraine. You know, I mean, that's how we entered the Second World War. You know, we were shipping a bunch of supplies to England, and Germany said, no, we don't like that. It's like, we're not in the war, Germany. We're not in the war, but we're giving a bunch of medical supply and food to England. And then the next thing you know, their U-boats start sinking our cargo ships. All right. So don't, either go to war or don't. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Anyway, let's go to the next story. All right. The worst Russia-Ukraine media takes make war about race, climate change, and Trump and more. So I don't know if you've been watching, these liberal people talking about this war in Ukraine. Oh boy, but let's talk about all of this. The war in Ukraine since Russia President Vladimir Putin's invasion has sparked some controversial analysis in the liberal media. Ukrainians have taken up arms to defend their homeland. Okay, we know all this stuff. All right, let's talk about the race-based analysis. MSNBC host Joy Reid claimed Monday that the war in Ukraine was getting so much attention due to demographics. All right, get this. Quote, the coverage of Ukraine has revealed a pretty radical disparity in how human Ukrainians look and feel to Western media compared to the browner and blacker counterparts, with some reporters using the very telling comparison in their analysis of the war, Reid said on the readout. She went on to say, we don't need to ask ourselves if the international response would have been the same if Russia unleashed their horror on a country that wasn't white and largely Christian, because Russia has already done it in Syria. She added, referencing Russia's deployment of soldiers to help quell the rebellion against President Bashar al-Assad in the country's civil war. Yeah, that's a civil war. That's like what they call proxy war. You know, this isn't. This is actual war between Western nations. Like world powers. There's a big difference. Anyway, let's go. Voter suppression claims. Several media pundits tried to tie the conflict in Ukraine to domestic matters. A few took swipes at President Biden, for instance, for failing to make a connection between the fight for freedom in Ukraine to voting rights efforts in the U.S. during a State of the Union address. Meet the Press host Chuck Todd and his guest, author and Princeton University professor Eddie S. Glaude Jr., agreed that Biden missed an opportunity to mention the anniversary of Bloody Sunday in his remarks on Ukraine. Bloody Sunday occurred on March 7th, 1965, when unarmed civil rights protesters were met with violent resistance from local law enforcement during the March of Selma to Montgomery, Alabama for voting rights. Todd said he was surprised by Biden's apparent whiff, while Glaude said he was stunned. If there's one thing that surprised me about the President's State of the Union, it was the lack of connecting the fight for democracy and freedom abroad with the fight for democracy and freedom at home. Today's Bloody Sunday, Todd said. Jeez Louise. These liberals, they can't stop talking about all that civil rights stuff as if it's still going on. They will not shut up about it. I think didn't I see recently Pete Buttigieg on that bridge? giving a speech about, hey, remember with civil rights movement? Yeah, we're the Democrats and we're all in on the civil rights movement. Remember how cool we were back then? Yeah, back then the Democrats were okay. You're still kind of racist because you're still obsessed with it. You're still obsessed with this. Anyway. I was stunned, Glaude said. I mean, it was kind of an easy rhetorical move. Let's defend democracy abroad and secure democracy at home. MSNBC's Tiffany Cross made the same connection, saying a recent episode of The Cross Connection that she observes the chaos in Ukraine. She realizes democracy can be a fragile thing, and it feels a bit fragile in America right now. She then accused the Republican Party of engaging in rampant voter suppression. All right. Yeah. Your imagination is not a real thing. Okay. All right, climate concerns. In a discussion about the possibility of U.S. banning Russian oil on Sundays this week, ABC's George Stephanopoulos called climate change an existential crisis, defending comments made by former Secretary of State John Kerry that the war could have a profound negative impact on the climate. Biden announced a ban on U.S. imports of Russian oil on Tuesday. You know what? I will say this to John Kerry. You know, I'm pretty sure that the Russia developing a 100% green tank is very, very important to Vladimir Putin. Okay, so late night host Stephen Colbert irked viewers by appearing to downplay the impact rising gas prices have had on Americans. I don't know if you heard about this soundbite, but this is insane. Quote, today the average gas price in America hit an all-time record of over $4 per gallon. Okay, that stings, but a clean conscience is worth a buck or two. It's important. It's important. I'm willing to pay $4 a gallon. Hell, I'll pay $15 a gallon because I drive a Tesla, Colbert said. That's how out of touch people like him are. You know? That's how out of touch he is. It's like, yeah, you have the money to spend a few extra dollars. You, Stephen Colbert, and your millionaire ass, you know? And then you hear like Joy Behar sitting there like on the View. It's like, oh, I won't be able to go to Rome. I won't be able to go to Rome because I don't know how travel's going to be affected when with this war and stuff like that. You know, you pampered assholes. Anyway, you know, they go on, they blame Trump and all this other stuff, and you know, it's the narrative. You know, it's the narrative. It's the way the narrative's always been, and anyway, let's go on to this next story. Former NATO ambassador on the Kilmeade show. Captured Russian soldiers revealing catastrophe for Putin. Former U.S. ambassador to NATO Kurt Volkner said on Tuesday that Russian leaders did not tell soldiers the truth about their invasion into Ukraine. Quote, one of the most telling things is that the Ukrainians discovered what the Ukrainians discovered when they captured some of the Russian soldiers. They interviewed them, and the soldiers did not know that they were in Ukraine and on a mission to attack Ukraine. They thought they were on a training exercise, Volker told the Brian Kilmeade show. What that tells you is the Russian leadership didn't want to tell them the truth because they knew they wouldn't want to do it. Infuriated Russian mothers accused President Vladimir Putin of using their sons as, quote, cannon fodder for his invasion of Ukraine, according to recent video during which many of Russian mothers shouted down a regional governor. The video surfaced on Monday, the same day when Russian police detained approximately 4,500 anti-war protesters, according to the Telegraph. Quote, we were all deceived, all deceived. They were sent there as cannon fodder, one woman screamed at Sergei, some guy named Sergei, governor of the Kuzbas region in Siberia. They were young and they were unprepared. I wonder what the tiles look like in a Scrabble game in Russia. Just now thinking about that. Anyway, Siliev, I think, T-S-I, Siliev, I don't know, reportedly faced the mothers in a school gym while the incensed women berated him and accused Putin's government of lies. As the Telegraph notes, it remains unclear whether the shouting women's sons had been killed in Ukraine. Siliev attempted to present Putin's invasion as a special operation and not a war, but was met with execration. I'm not familiar. Russian soldiers who were interrogated after being captured reportedly under the impression that they were undergoing a military exercise before they learned they were participating in a full-scale invasion. Volker, who served as special representative for the Ukraine negotiations during the Trump administration, said the moment Russian soldiers learned what they were doing, they started to buck orders. You were seeing these desertions. You're seeing a refusal to follow orders, he explained. Adding troops were running out of food and fuel. They're leaving their vehicles on the road. This is a catastrophe for the Russians, and it's Putin's catastrophe. And you have to believe that the generals and the leadership in Russia know this. It's hard. They're probably the first ones who left. It's hard for them to do something about it now, but the worse it gets, the more they're going to be looking at Vladimir Putin's leadership. Yeah. See, this is what the truth is about modern militaries, is that they don't blindly follow orders. You know, this idea that, you know, people, when you join the military, you have to blindly follow orders or you're going to be shot. I mean, that may be true in countries like Russia, but it's not so much true in the United States. You can choose not to obey an order, and whether it's a lawful order or not, you know, it could come up in court, because you're probably going to go to court if you refuse to do an order. You know, and you know, if these soldiers realize that they were intentionally kept in the dark for the sake of this invasion, you know, I can understand how it could rub them the wrong way. You know, and because just like U.S. military, Russia says, like, get a good career, join the army, get a good career, you know, and that career is like killing other Russian-like people. Ugh, that depressed me just to say it. All right, let's get into these two happier news stories before we get out of here for the week. So, Ukrainian delivers food and medicine in Kyiv, says the city is not afraid and is ready to fight. When missiles first hit Ukraine, many Kyiv residents, I'm going to try to say these Russian names. Oleksandr Prokorenko. Sorry. His first reaction was to run and hide, but something stopped him. I thought to myself, who am I if I'm going to leave these people? Prokorenko told Fox News while walking through the center of Kyiv. You cannot imagine how many people are in need. I bet, he said. I bet. That's why he decided to stay in the country's capital, where he was born and raised. Prokorenko, who owns several Kyiv restaurants, has spent the last several days delivering food and medicine to sheltering Ukrainians, including cancer patients and the elderly. You can run, but you will never escape yourself. Oh, that's profound, dude. You can run, but you can't hide, bitch. Anyway, I don't know why that popped in my head. Well, too much Rick and Morty, I guess. You can run, but you will never escape yourself, he said. Russia invaded Ukraine nearly 2 weeks ago. Prokorenko said he's been inspired by the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's leadership. Zelensky has also vowed to stay in Kyiv. Zelensky filmed a video on Monday from his Kyiv office saying, "I'm not hiding. I'm not afraid of anyone." In a speech on Tuesday, Zelensky said, "We'll fight to the end, at sea and in the air. We will continue fighting on land, whatever the cost may be." He's trying to do a Winston Churchill, isn't he? We'll fight them on the beaches. It's a serious situation. We shouldn't be laughing at it. Okay. Quote, "Today I only had 6 volunteers, and we delivered 25 portions of packed food to old people who are alone," the restaurateur said. He said he delivered medicine to women and children, people ill with cancer. Prokorenko told Fox News the eyes of those receiving his help, saying thank you, were indescribable. Prokorenko uses Instagram to help connect people with different items they need. Soon, many people started reaching out to him asking for other tasks. "Can you do this?" or "Can you do this?" He quoted. As long as I'm here, I will never stand and watch. I will help, he said. Prokorenko couldn't find the words to describe how people living in Kyiv felt. It's pain, anger, fear, courage. There should be a word for this feeling. It's even in Russian, huh? I wouldn't wish for anyone to feel what we feel now, he continued. While Kyiv remains under Ukrainian control, its suburbs have increasingly seen indiscriminate Russian attacks. The whole city is prepared to give a fight, Prokorenko told Fox News while walking through the deserted streets. "I don't want to do this, but if someone threatens my independence, my people, then yes, I'm ready to take a gun to protect," he told Fox News. "Not to kill, but to protect. This is the difference between us. Russia is trying to invade. They're killing our women. They're killing our children, killing civilians, destroying everything we built, he said. He called on Russians to take greater action to stop Putin. Some of his friends from Moscow have asked him, what should we do? His response, what should you do? Go on the streets. Our people are stopping tanks with their bodies because they're not afraid. Russian people are afraid to be beaten. We are not afraid. We are not afraid, he told Fox News. We're ready to fight. I'll have to fight. I'll fight. Translator didn't sound very good. Just kept saying, it's like, there's no nuance to it. It just keeps repeating the same thing. Anyway, let's get into this last story. Just something to cheer us up before the nukes start falling. Let's drop the big one. See what happens. Dog stranded on a floating chunk of ice rescued in Michigan. All right. I'll be honest with you. It's the picture of this dog that really got me. Maybe want to use this story. So this dog definitely needs a warm bath. Rescue workers in Michigan were able to pull a dog to safety after it became trapped on the Detroit River. The pet had gotten loose from its owner during a walk and ended up becoming stuck on a chunk of ice drifting in the river. On the river. The Wyandotte Police Department posted about this rescue on its Facebook page, where it credited animal control and local firefighters for helping with the rescue. Footage of the rescue shows a worker standing on a ladder partially submerged in the freezing water. He slowly uses a long tool called a catch pole to grab the freezing animal before pulling it to safety. As soon as the dog is within arm's reach, the workers on dry land immediately pulled it out of the water. The post states Wyandotte Police Department officers, animal control, and firefighters teamed up with a pretty sweet rescue Monday afternoon. A Labradoodle had gotten away from its owner while on a walk and ended up jumping onto the freezing cold Detroit River. God, dogs are dumb. The post continues, the poor pooch somehow managed to climb onto a chunk of ice, but it was drifting away in the river while the dog was freezing. Our team was able to move the ice close to the riverbank, and our fire department snagged the dog around its neck with a catch pole. The rescuer did this while standing on a slippery ladder that was submerged in a river while the co-workers helped him out via a rope. Truly an amazing and awesome rescue. And it's this picture of this dog. He's just laying down with his chin on his paws, He's giving up. It's like, well, I'm not getting off of this thing by myself. So he just might as well lay down, get a nap. And it's like, I think animals are stupid. They're really, really dumb. Especially dogs are really, really dumb. And, but, I don't want them to suffer, and I'm all about helping out somebody or some creature. It's human nature in many ways. It's human nature to bring people food and medicine, during a war. That's in all of our souls. Don't forget that. Because like every single one of those Russian soldiers, it's in all of our souls. Even Russian Putin's heart has a good side to it. All right. Even Donald Trump's heart has a good side to it. Even Joe Biden's heart has a good side to it. I think it was Nietzsche that said the line of good and evil goes directly through the center of every human heart, or something like that. And that's true. We all have the capacity for both good and evil. And so we have to choose to do good. And that's kind of my point, generally. With in between rants about how I hated the Batman movie. Anyway, we're coming to the end of the show now. I want to remind you, go over to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Half a gallon of gas. That's all it costs. Half a gallon of gas. And you can become a patron here at Shock Monkey Radio. Patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. You could also send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio. I would appreciate that. Go check out Coco's Confections on Facebook. I know she's got a bunch of pictures of her cakes on there. You'll be astounded just looking at them. Your mouth will water, and you'll be like, I got to make an order right now. I got to move to Fredericksburg right now so I can make an order. Get me one of these cakes. So, yeah, this has been the end of the show. This has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman, and I love you.